There's an old Ethiopian proverb that says, "We must initiate the young people. Otherwise, they will burn down the village to feel the heat." Now, I'm going to talk about initiation and rites of passage and the importance for young people. But first, I'm going to describe a little bit about where our young people are today. In September of last year, a University of California, San Diego psychology professor named Jean Twenge wrote an article for the Atlantic Monthly in which she described our young people as being on the brink of the worst mental health crisis in decades. She noted the skyrocketing depression and anxiety and attached it a little bit to the phone. She thought that the phone might be causing some problems with our young people. But as somebody who spends my days working with George Lucas, trying to understand what works for young people in schools, how do we help design learning experiences that make young people thrive? I was really struck by this article and really disappointed that this has gotten to be so high. These numbers are so out of control. In the last 12 years, the rate of depression among youth has increased 37%. The prevalence of major depressive episodes among young people, among girls, outnumbers boys by a factor of 3 to 1. And the onset of this depression happens between the ages of 15 and 17. The same story is true with anxiety. The numbers, 25% of our youth have been diagnosed with a clinical anxiety disorder over the course of their lifetime. 6% on top of that have severe anxiety disorder. So these numbers are really daunting. Then the girls outnumber boys again by a factor of 3 to 2, and the onset is consistent throughout their teenage years, but it's quite high. What is going on here? Well, to understand this, I did a little bit more digging and went into the work of Dan Siegel, who wrote the book called Brainstorm: The Power and Purpose of the Teenage Brain. And if any of you have had an adolescent, you will recognize some of these symptoms. He identified 4 drives, primal drives that the teenage brain is designed to do. The first one, seek novelty. The second, engage socially. Thirdly, increase their emotional intensity. The drama. And fourth, engage in creative exploration. Now, if you wanted to design a more environment that would crush the living soul out of the teenage brain, you would put it into a traditional 20th century classroom with a teacher sitting in the front talking about something that is not interesting while you're sitting in a desk in rows. It's not good for the teenage brain. What does the teenage brain love more than anything? That. Joseph Campbell, we're at a Heroes Conference. We all know who Joseph Campbell is, right? The guy who wrote The Power of Myth, the guy who mentored my boss, George Lucas. He talked a lot about the power of stories and rituals and the power of those to help people make sense of what he calls the inexhaustible chaos of the cosmos. He also said that when kids do not have a rite of passage, they tend to engage in what he calls self-rendered initiation. Now, what does that look like today? This is really disgusting. You take a pod of Tide laundry soap, you set up your phone, you hit record, you put it on your tongue, the water-soluble packaging dissolves, and you start to froth at the mouth. It's hilarious. Hilarity ensues until kids are starting to get esophageal damage and have breathing and uncontrollable coughing problems. This one's even more disgusting. So this is more recent. Kids take presumably an unused condom, unroll it, put it up their nose, stick it out their mouth. It's really disgusting. But this is happening. This is on Twitter right now. This is what self-rendered initiation looks like. Now, I believe that we have a huge, huge opportunity here, that we can help design rites of passage, rituals for young people that help them not only discover who they are and what their passions are, but also help them engage in the world in a way that feels productive and exciting to them. We know, for example, that rites of passage across cultures are designed to create the types of adults that the culture needs. So the Amazonian tribe that has the Sadare Mawe, they have a very brutal ritual for their young men to have them endure pain. They're a warrior culture. Those young men have to go fight predators. Certainly more agrarian rites of passage are oriented around the seasons and the earth and the rain. In 21st century America, we have an opportunity to design rites of passage for our young people, to design them for the kinds of adults that we need. Adults that are resilient, compassionate, empathic, have ethics, creative, good communicators, can fix really big problems. So, how do we do that? Well, I've created 5 design principles that can help us think through, as adults who have young people in our lives, presumably all of us know some young people in our lives, to help us think through how we might design something for a young person. The first is, we know from the educational research that having buy-in from kids is really important. Kids, if they are passionate about something, they'll go all in. So making sure that there's buy-in, having a mentor with that young person to help find their passion if it's not immediately obvious. We can use some stories here. For example, a girl named Julia loves surfing. It's her favorite thing. She goes out to Bolinas Beach every weekend and surfs. With her mentor, Julia decides that she wants to do a rite of passage around the beach cleanup because it's a mess and there's a lot of people litter out there a lot. There's a lot of parties. So rather than say, woo, it's a party, we're going to go out and have a beach party, they turn this into a rite of passage. So after she's decided what she wants to do, they must leave the normal world. Now, as attendees at a hero conference, we're familiar with the leaving the normal world, right? That's the hero's journey. But instead of going off to slay stormtroopers or, go fight dragons, Julia's departure of the normal world begins with a commitment that she makes to herself and her community that she's going to take on this project to clean up the beach, to invest her time and her energy and learn some skills about how to be a leader. So the tasks in this project must be hard and relevant. Heroes' journeys are not easy. We know this. So for Julia, she's going to have to learn how to be a project manager. She's going to have to get volunteers, recruit them to come, rent the van to get them out there, raise money to afford the van. She will learn in her rite of passage skills that will serve her well into her adulthood. Then, to keep this from being just another exercise, this has to have ritualized elements. So maybe she opens that day out on the beach with a circle, with her friends. Maybe she wears ceremonial dress. Maybe she fasts the night before or does something else to give her a sense of right relationship with herself and her community and the greater cosmos. And finally, when it's all over, she must be recognized from her community, her adults, her mentors, the people in her life as an adult. She has accomplished something amazing, and she can now enjoy the fruits of that. It is so, so, so important that we think about how we can initiate our young people. All of us who are adults have a huge opportunity and a responsibility to help our young people grow up in a way that is constructive, that is beneficial to them, to their communities, to the larger world, and to this amazing, miraculous planet that we live on. I invite you to continue this conversation. It's really important, and I look forward to seeing how we can all make this world friendlier for these types of young heroes. Thank you.
The Hero Roundtables are the global events that ask the question, what is a hero? You've just seen one hero talk. To find more and join the conversation, visit our website or social media.